Great to have you with us. Now, in our first story, some police officers are kicking against the government's decision to migrate them and other security agencies from the Cap 30 to the SNIT pension scheme. The Cap 30 scheme, which is regarded as higher than the SNIT pension scheme, is funded by direct budgetary allocations from the Consolidated Fund. But public servants who qualify for Cap 30 still contribute to 5% of their monthly salaries. Deputy Employment Minister Bright Rekubobwe at Parliament's Public Accounts Committee indicated that government has granted approval for the unification of all pension schemes under Act 766. But by this, all security agencies, especially the military, except the military, will make contributions to the SNIT pension scheme. A police officer who spoke to Joy News on condition of anonymity says morale among the rank and file of the service is low following this decision.
I wondered why the police and other security services rather are being taken off the Cap 30. In fact, I was really shocked, I must say, very, very shocked.
Your police, how will they react?
No, it brought a whole lot of tensions in the police, I must say, and people are reacting differently to the news because, Cap 30 is, you don't joke with Cap 30 because every police officer knows Cap 30 is his life. After long years in the police service and after you've wasted your life and all the fatalities in the police service, and when you retire and you have no strength to work again, that is what people retire and that is what people use for a living after retirement. You understand? It is the life of the police officer. So no one will take it lightly if the government intends to take the police off the Cap 30. Oh, that can bring us a lot of problems, I must say that. But the point is that, in my opinion, you don't take the police off. And you are sending us to Senate. And we all know how people have had problems with management of, pensions with Senate. Oh no, the police deserve better.
When the story was announced, to what extent is this agitation amongst persons of even the police service, I can speak for the police service, to what extent are they angry?
You see, I think the agitations were so loud to understand that the police administration issued a statement to calm down nerves of personnel. Police administration of all, if they knew that tensions were not so high in the police, they would have issued a statement. You understand? And on various social media platforms, various forums and platforms that police officers found themselves, people were voicing out. People were expressing their dissatisfaction as far as this news is concerned. The Cap 30 issue has what it takes to give us serious crisis as a nation. Very serious crisis. For the first time, the police were close to demonstrations. For the first time. And even when the police administration has spoken, people were not satisfied. People were not satisfied. It means that we are nearing a stage, gradually. And some of us do not want the country to go to that level.
How you said the interior minister has spoken and that your proposal is not done. Or what if it happens?
If that happens, I will. I'm saying I will because I have seen so many things and I don't think it's in the interest of the security first, in the security of the nation. But then, those who are willing to push the police to the wall should go ahead and push the police. Maybe people want to see, for the first time, police officers hitting the streets. Maybe that's what people want to see. And so if people want to see it, likely they will see. Yes, so that one is up to them.
Now, the latest on this issue is that Interior Minister Ambrose Derry, speaking at a handing over ceremony of some police vehicles at the police headquarters, has said that the president will not allow this change in policy. But earlier, the minority demanded government rescind its decision. Ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Agalga, spoke on News Desk.
When you have a government which comes out to say its cabinet has met and taken a decision to migrate them from the said Cap 30 pension scheme onto the SNP pension scheme, I mean, there is cause to be alarmed, and we are indeed very alarmed. That is why we found it very compelling to admonish President Akufo-Addo to immediately rescind his decision, because the police officers and other security agencies are agitated. But we're saying that those agitations portend great danger for our national security. Look, it is not for nothing that President Mills, President Mahama never contemplated migrating the police officers and other officers of sister security agencies from the Cap 30, in spite of the passage of Act 766. And that is why we are of the opinion, as the minority in Parliament, that if Act 766 is causing confusion in the mind of President Akufo-Addo, he should cause the relevant Section 31 to be amended with immediate effect to cover the police service and other sister security agencies. The risk associated with their work, the fact that they are the only ones who cannot unionize and agitate for improved conditions of service. They don't enjoy public holidays. It's Easter. When it's Christmas and you go to have fun with your family, that is the time, that is the peak season for their work. So we're saying that the harrowing conditions under which they work makes it very compelling for them to be retained on the Cap 30. Maybe these reasons were lost on the cabinet of President Akufo-Addo.
Now, away from that story, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU, has described recent happenings at the Mövenpick Ambassador Hotel in Accra as unfortunate. The General Secretary of the ICU, Solomon Kote, speaking on Newsdesk earlier, said he is hopeful the management will reconsider its modus operandi and maintain serene work atmosphere. Some staff of the hotel laid down their tools on Wednesday in protest against what they describe as racist treatment meted out to them by the hotel's management. Activities at the reception of the hotel got interrupted when those staff members, numbering about 100, pitched camp with their aprons amidst drumming and chanting. But Mr. Kote said he is not surprised at the incident, which is said to have affected operations Wednesday.
Have a collective agreement in which we have what we call grievance procedure, and many who are faulted on principles, code of conduct of the business, have all gone through it, and conclusions of the committees have been final. But in this particular case, management is trying to vary the due process that has been followed and the recommendation of the committee. So workers were like, if it is a black, if it's a Ghanaian, would you say you want to go and consult a lawyer to look at the issues again? This is where it all began, because we made them aware that if what is good for the goose is good for the gander, this is not the point for you to vary the kind of misdemeanor from the white lady. If you pick that of Mawako issue, look at the way ICU went about it, it's been resolved and it's gone for good. We don't know which experts will be gaining employment in Ghana, and they want to look at himself as a superhuman being than the rest of his colleagues who are here. So we cannot guarantee that we are going to put measures in place that will not happen. If any expert comes into this country and is not willing to come by the code of conduct of the business and rules of flexible, action is coming. But we hope that any employer who is bringing an expert will give them the education very well so that they will not come here and come and give us this unnecessary headache. This particular general manager's conduct is not the best. It brings fear and panic on the workers. His attention has been drawn to it severally, yet it wouldn't change.
Now, the unmonitorable state of the Ashaiman-Lashibi stretch is forcing some commuters to endanger their lives on the Accra-Tema motorway. Despite the persistent knockdowns, scores of people continue to dangerously run across the motorway in a bid to dodge traffic under the tunnel daily, which is a result of flooding. Joy News' MFR Itiama Eli visited the area and reports not only are adults risking their lives crossing the 100km/h speed limit motorway, but babies are clutched to the chest of their parents as they embark on this deadly mission.
For time immemorial, users of the Ashaiman-Lashibi tunnel maneuvered dangerous potholes to use the narrow tunnel originally built to enable cattle herds cross over to either sides of the motorway without obstructing traffic. Over time, the facility has outgrown its purpose and expanded to serve humans as well. This is largely due to lack of an alternative route for commuters traveling between Lashibi and Ashaiman. According to the Ashaiman Municipal Assembly, at least 500 vehicles use the tunnel on a daily basis. On a good day, commuters, depending on which end of the tunnel they are traveling from or to, would spend at least 10 minutes waiting for traffic on the opposite side to clear before they cross. The situation for many can be stressing and frustrating.
The road is bad. Authorities responsible must do something about it. The entire gutter is choked. The motorway and the underbridge must be fixed. We suffer when it rains.
To avoid the delay and its associated discomforts, some commuters have resorted to endangering their lives on the motorway. Men and women are seen racing against speeding vehicles just to get to their destinations. Children are held tightly by their parents to enable them smartly run across. Even babies are clenched to their chests and sometimes strapped to the back of their parents and are used to cross the 100 km/h speed limit motorway.
I live at Ajekojo. Anytime I'm going to Teshinungwa, I run across the motorway. The underbridge is terrible, particularly when it rains. I'll be delayed if I go through it.
Commercial drivers are fast cashing in on the situation. At the Klago end of the tunnel, a mini taxi rank is springing up. Persons heading towards Lashibi, Sakumono and Nungwa are their potential passengers. Instead of wasting time in traffic to go through the tunnel, these commuters run across the motorway and board these taxis. Yakubu, Jonathan and Saviola are drivers at these illegal pickup points.
And at the same time,
it's impossible to drive small vehicles through the tunnel anytime it rains, not even the minibuses. We are used to loading those heading towards Nungwa, and mostly they'll just cross over the motorway, which is faster. We suffer using the underbridge a lot, particularly when it rains. The entire vehicle will break down due to the poor state of the road and the tunnel. Running across the motorway is dangerous. Even though there's an access down there, it becomes inaccessible and no one wants to waste time using the facility.
The situation is not different at the Ajekojo side of the tunnel. A full-fledged mini bus station is becoming very attractive for those traveling at Atadika and Katamansu. During rush hours, it is the preferred bus stop for passengers returning from Accra Central. At least, a vehicle knocks down one person while walking or running across this point of the motorway every week. Abeku and Victoria are witnesses.
When they remember, I remember,
ofi me say no ba pon school but moto no became wa moto obampe wa na ofi moto is to na car that be accident you are because of bridge unity that na see wa hada car bo amanfo wa bebre yes mo they say they can motorway.
The alternative is the rough stretch running through the tunnel. On a rainy day, drivers must get their act right to maneuver through the mud and debris deposited, mostly at the entrance and beneath the tunnel. It gets chaotic sometimes, and your guess is as good as mine.
Now, away from that, Director of Operations at Dredge Masters says the activities of squatters along the Odor drain are to blame for the silt and dumping of waste in the drain. Sena Adiepena, speaking to the media as dredging of the main drain begins ahead of the rainy season, said grassing of the banks of the Odor is important to prevent the choking of the drain.
The rate of siltation is quite rapid, and which really requires that we need to continuously maintain this drain by desilting and dredging. Huge volumes of silt are being taken out and being loaded out of sight. The rubbish bits that the settlers and encroachers along the drains, we have also realized that they aggravate the situation by throwing their waste into the drain, which acts as a blockade. The main reason for the flooding is not the rubbish. It is the silt deposit, which has resulted in loss of capacity of the drain. The rubbish content only serves as a blockade, so it aggravates the situation. So, yes, we have to deal with both silt and rubbish, but we are also in touch with the AMA in regards to clearing the squatters and the encroachers who are along the drains. And it's those same squatters who end up losing their lives also because they are too close to the drain. If you have the banks of the drains exposed and not properly grassed, you have some of those materials falling back and adding to the silt deposit. So as part of our scope and project, we are not just to dredge but also beautify and green and prepare landscape, put park benches and all of that to enhance the look of the area, not just the dredging bits. So there are other civil infrastructure components of the scope, which includes a clep interceptor, which prevents the pollution of the Kole Lagoon by the Odor.
The Works and Housing Minister talked about a permanent fix for the Odor drain. Do you think there can be a permanent fix?
Yes, there can be a permanent fix to this solution, which involves engineering, designs, and a lot more engineering, and studies to this whole.
Now, away from that, the director of the Kolebu Reconstructive Plastic Surgery and Burn Center, Dr. Opokuwari Ampoma, says doctors are working to correct the eyesight of a mobile money merchant who suffered acid attack when she was robbed by two men in Kaswa in the central region. Dr. Ampoma is also worried about how acid is readily available on the open market. He spoke to Joy News shortly after some members of the mobile money advocacy group presented an amount of 5,000 Ghana cedis to cater for the victim.
One of the main areas of concern is a vision, because this acid got into contact with her eyes, and so already she's having some blurring of her vision. So our eye doctors are treating her for that. And we are also treating the burns to the face and the chest. She's been here for about 18 days now, and we are looking forward to taking her to the theater to provide skin grafts or to her chest. The wounds on the chest are quite deep and wouldn't heal well if we leave them alone. So we have to go and take some skin from another part of her body and then bring it to cover the chest wound so that it will heal. And so this, as you can see, she's undergone quite a lot, and she needs all the support she can get because treatment for burns is very, very expensive. So we are very grateful to the Mobile Money Group for this wonderful gesture and this show of support, and we trust that they will continue to support our sister both financially and emotionally, because this is something that's quite traumatic. You can imagine that somebody who's had a normal appearance and having this injury, because the thing is that no amount of plastic surgery would ever restore you to, your original state. You still have some scarring as a result. And we think that these are, issues that can be best prevented by making sure that chemicals are not just, allowed to be handled by just anybody. If you have 5 Ghana cedis and you go to the Kaneshi market or any of their markets, you can easily get acid to buy. And many people tend to misuse some of these chemical agents. So we are praying for our lawmakers and those law enforcers to make sure that we really enforce the laws, the rules and regulations so that access to dangerous chemicals is restricted as much as possible. I think that's one of the best ways that we can prevent things like this from happening. And then when people have engaged in that activity, the law.
However, members of the Mobile Money Advocacy Group are admonishing their members not to fight back when they come under attack. General Secretary of the group, Michael Asante, says it is dangerous to fight robbers.
Because normally the amounts they take away with is not worth the life they try to, and we want to encourage the vendors. If there's a robbery case, you shouldn't fight too hard, because sometimes they might hurt you or kill you, and there is no amount that is worth your life. So let's put in the security measures that we keep educating them as an association, and let's be cautious of who we deal with in terms of our business, so that we don't encourage them the more. Don't fight too hard. But it's important to be on the preventive side. Take in the security measures that MOMAG has been educated.
Away from that, the Center for Democratic Governance is calling on government to, as a matter of urgency, take a second look at the poor juvenile justice system in the country. At a roundtable discussion on the rights of juvenile offenders, law lecturer Edmund Foley mentioned the lack of specialized courts and inadequate resources for senior correctional centers as some of the challenges plaguing the system. He wants governments to pay serious attention to correctional centers, which play a key role in the reformation of young offenders. Ifwa Evans-Chinwe reports.
PDD Ghana is concerned that senior correctional centers have been neglected and that the Ghana Prison Service and the Department of Social Welfare struggle to manage these juveniles amidst the challenges. During an illustration by the Ghana Prison Service, theft came topmost on the list of offences committed by these juveniles. Edmund Foley is a law lecturer at GIMPA.
You look at our juvenile justice system and you first have a problem with the law. The national crime statistics themselves show stealing as the most prevalent offense in Ghana. From stealing, you come to assault and then sexual violence-related crimes or sex-related offenses. I think that should be speaking to us as a community, as a national community, about what is pushing people into crime. A lot of the time, if you have stealing cases, then chances are it's a criminalization of poverty. People are stealing to survive. But then also you have unresolved issues in relationships, so pent-up problems resulting in sexual violence and assault cases. But we are not responding to these statistics.
Victoria Ajowoda is the Chief Superintendent of the Ghana Prison Service. She says government must intervene soon.
Lack of materials for training at the workshops, and then pressure on the only facility in the country. This is also another major challenge, because you realize that this is the only center for the whole Ghana, and so boys are brought from all over Ghana.
Join us visited the Junior Correctional Center in Accra, where the facility is faced with a number of challenges. Love Grace Ahlija, Deputy Director in charge of the center, mentioned 3 things she wants to see happen to create the change they want.
The walls must be raised, because the walls are too short and it poses danger to the children and us as a staff. Secondly, I want an infirmary built in that home, because we take in vulnerable children who need to be looked after very well. So we need an infirmary immediately to be built in that home for us. Thirdly, we want our remand that got burned on the 28th of December refurbished immediately for us.
CDD Ghana believes these young offenders must have the potential to reform and reintegrate into society if they are given the necessary assistance they deserve.
Now, there are calls for a female vice presidential candidate as analysts discuss qualities expected of running mates ahead of election 2020. While some argue that candidates with administrative and mobilization competencies will fly, others say economic competence of the candidate is key. These are highlights from the first Vice Presidential Permutations Forum organized by research think tank Center for Public Discourse Analysis. Philip Ankra has more.
It was a rigorous exchange of ideas on the qualities expected of a vice presidential candidate as Ghana nears election 2020. Panelists at the first Vice Presidential Permutations Forum did not agree on pegging the choice of a vice presidential candidate on economic credentials. One characteristic they all agreed on as key to the choice, however, is competence. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia became an economic sensation in the run-up to the 2016 elections, delivering several lectures on the country's economy. Evans Mensah argues a person with experience and knowledge on the economy for the NDC's quest for electoral victory in 2020.
The regional origins isn't such a great factor if you're thinking about votes. So I don't put too much value on it now. It used to be a big thing there, but now if you look at the statistics, it doesn't show that the person's ability to come from there. Even in 2016, when Bawumia did so, we eulogized him here, NDC still won the northern region. The question about competence for me is the overriding one. And it's coming on the back of Bawumia. I think in 2020, that will be, and that's how Bawumia for me has redefined this game. In terms of competence, I think that's where he really defines the game. And I think going to 2020, that will be the number one factor. John Mahama will be remiss not to appoint somebody who can match Bawumia for competence. After all, they lost on account of Bawumia's successful branding of the NDC as incompetent.
Head of Current Affairs and Politics at CTFM, Akoto Boafo, argued for administrative and mobilization competencies instead.
A lot of Ghanaians were actually convinced, for even those who did not vote, were convinced that, okay, this guy brings something different. Give the economy to him. That is why Evans makes a fantastic point when he talks about, now everybody knows who the EMT is. That is because during campaigning, everybody was like, once you come in, just give the country to this guy to run with. But since you came in and you started running the country, we know he's not the one actually running the country, one. The economy is not doing too well, 3. So, do you really need another economic messiah? No. So the NDC, I think, will look at finding a Bawumia foil, who is not an economics guru, but is simply a competent and charismatic campaigner.
A proposition which appeared to have stolen the show came from development consultant Dr. Nansata Yakubu, and that is Ghana is ready for a female vice president.
The opportunity is for the NDC. We are pushing for a women candidate. We are, and we think that the current president can do it. If the current candidate for the NDC can do it, if he chooses to, well and good. If he doesn't, going forward, it is still an agenda that I think we should bring. From independence, women have always supported different governments in this country. They organize their on the grassroots level. If women don't come to the forefront, there won't be any elections. From Nkrumah with market women, yet when revolutions come, women also bear the brunt. We think it's time that the real purpose for which women should do, so they need their political dues, and we need to be elected into the higher office. And one of the ways to go is through the vice presidency.
There are several political parties in Ghana, and the clock is ticking for what promises to be a political showdown between the two major parties, the opposition NDC.
That's it for this segment of Joy News today. Up next is business, and the European Union is targeting sustainable job creation for Ghana's youth under the Alliance for Sustainable Investment and Jobs initiative. Stay with us.